All right, so today we're going to talk about legal descriptions in real property. And this topic is absolutely foundational to real estate law. So while a street address tells you where to send mail, a legal description tells you exactly what piece of land is being referred to. It's going to outline the precise location and boundaries, okay? So this precision is critical for establishing things like clear title and even preventing a boundary dispute. So we're going to talk about we're going to basically dissect the different types of legal descriptions and how they're formatted and their essential role when it comes to deeds of conveyance. Now, let's begin with just a brief introduction here. A property's legal description is an exact description of the location and boundaries of a parcel of property. It is a unique identifier for a specific piece of land, and it is precise enough to allow a surveyor to go and locate it actually on the ground. Okay. So think of it like the property's fingerprint. Okay. Now, a legal description, though, encompasses more than just the property street address. So the street address, it's a convenient thing for everyday use because it tells us how to get someplace or it tells us where to mail something. It can refer to like a specific building, an apartment, whatever, right? But it's not a precise identifier of land boundaries. Okay, so for an example, a single street address might encompass an entire apartment complex that's built on several distinct legal parcels. So, because of their importance in defining property, many real estate documents are required to include a legal description for the subject property. And that includes not just deeds, but also mortgages, easements, and other instruments that affect property rights. And without an accurate legal description, those documents can be unenforceable or create significant title issues. Now, there are primarily three types of legal descriptions, and there's only two, though, that are widely used in Georgia. First are the short legals, and these are used for subdivided property in Georgia and some other states. And they are typically brief, as they refer to property that has already been precisely mapped out and recorded. Then you have the long legals, and these are also known as the meets and bounds legals. And they're used for non subdivided property in Georgia and in some other states, but they provide a detailed linear description of the property's boundaries. And then you have the public land survey system. And this system, which is also known as the government rectangular survey descriptions, is not used in Georgia, but it is widely utilized across much of the Western and Midwestern United States. So it is still important to understand it for broader context. So let's look at short legal descriptions in more detail. They are used to legally describe property that's located within a recorded subdivision plat. And a subdivision plat is a map of a tract of land that has been divided into smaller lots. And it shows the precise dimensions of each lot, the streets, the easements, and any other kinds of features. And that plat is officially recorded in the public records of the county. So, because the detailed survey information is already contained in the recorded plat, the short legal descriptions are usually brief, okay? And they simply reference the specific lot, block, and subdivision name, along with the recording information for the plat. So let me show you a sample of a short legal description. All that tract or parcel of land being in land lot 60 of the 16th District, Cobb County, Georgia, being lot 7, block E, phase 2 of Plumeria Heights subdivision as per plat recorded in Plat Book 17, page 128 of the Cobb County, Georgia records. Now let's break this down a little bit more. All that tract or parcel of land, this is going to be your standard introductory language. Then we have lying and being in land lot 60 of the 16th District, Cobb County, Georgia. And this refers to the larger governmental survey division within the county, which is the common way to locate property in Georgia. Next, we have the being Lot 7, Block E, Phase 2 of Plumeria Heights subdivision. This specifically identifies the individual lot within that named subdivision, okay? And that's possible because Plumeria Heights subdivision has a master plan that's been recorded. And then we have as per plat recorded in Plat Book 17, page 128 of the Cobb County, Georgia records. This gives that crucial reference to where that detailed survey for this subdivision can be found in the county's public records. So this recorded plat contains all of those precise measurements and boundaries for Lot 7, Block E. Okay. Now, for clarity, the property street address will be included at the end of the legal description, but it's not necessary. Okay. And that's true for all types of legal descriptions. While they are helpful for practical purposes, the legal description itself is sufficient to identify the property. So next we have the long legal descriptions. And again, these are known as the meets and bounds legal descriptions. And these are used when property is not part of a recorded subdivision, or if it's a very large or irregularly shaped tract of land. The defining characteristic of a meets and bounds description is that every boundary line has to be described, okay? So it literally describes the perimeter of the property by given a series of directions and distances, starting from a known point, tracing the boundaries, and then turning back to the starting point. And surveys are used as the basis for a long legal description. And a survey is a detailed aerial view drawing of real property, and it's prepared by licensed surveyors. And again, it's going to visually depict the property's boundaries, dimensions, and sometimes other features. Now, there are different types of surveys that a surveyor might prepare. First is a boundary survey. And this depicts a property's boundaries and the topographical characteristics. And this is the most common type for defining property lines. An as-built survey is more detailed, and it's going to depict the location of any kind of natural and man-made structures or easements that are located on the property. And this is often required during construction projects to show the exact location of new buildings and utilities and even improvements that are relative to property lines and easements. And then you have the Alta ACSM, and it's important that this survey standards are followed. They are widely accepted professional standards for surveys, intended to ensure that there's consistency and accuracy. Okay. So all surveys should ideally be prepared according to those standards. And ALTA stands for American Land Title Association. And the ACSM stands for American Congress on Surveying and Mapping, which is now NSPS, or the National Society for Professional Surveyors. But again, those standards are intended to ensure that the survey meets the needs of the property owners, the lenders, and even the title insurers. Now let's walk through the general format of a long legal description. Part 1 is going to describe the general location of the property, and it's going to be by reference to a land lot, a district, a section, if applicable, and the county. And this initial part helps to broadly situate the property within its geographic and governmental context. So it's the same first step as in a short legal description. Like all that tract or parcel of land lying and being in Land Lot 107, 17th District, Fulton County, Georgia. Now, Part 2 describes the location of the point of beginning. And the point of beginning is a precisely defined point that is located somewhere on the property's boundary or some nearby identifiable monument. And it's going to serve as the starting place for the outline of the property's boundary lines. And so surveyors use a variety of methods to kind of find the property's point of beginning. And they often, again, rely on existing monuments like an iron pin or a tree or, I don't know, large rocks or even like an established street intersection. But the point of beginning has to be a stable, identifiable point that can be easily relocated by another surveyor. For example, it might say commence at the point of intersection of the northerly right-of-way of 14th Street, variable right-of-way width, and the westerly right-of-way line of Fowler Street, 40-foot right-of-way width. Thence run northerly along and coincident with the westerly right-of-way line of Fowler Street, a distance of 269 feet to an iron pin, and said pin being the true beginning. So part 3 traces around the boundary of the property, starting at and ending at the point of beginning. And this is the core of meets and bounds descriptions. Each segment of the boundary is described by a call, which in its course, its direction, and its distance or the length. And the description must form a polygon, meaning that it must end precisely back at that point of beginning. If it doesn't close, then there's an error with the description, okay? Now, as with a short legal description, you might also include the property's street address for convenience, but again, it is not legally necessary for the description itself. So part 4 references the survey that was used to prepare the long legal and sometimes also gives the total acreage of the property. And this reference to the specific survey, its date, the surveyor's name, and sometimes a survey plat book and page number is crucial for verifying the accuracy of the description. So it links the written description to a visual representation. So let's go back to part 3. And to understand this part in detail, let's learn how to read a survey and the calls in the legal description, the long legal description, I should say, because each boundary line it's depicted on the survey. It's going to be described in the long legal by a call. And a call includes 2 key pieces of information. Again, the course or the direction of the line, and that's typically expressed by using compass bearings, north, south, east, west. And it's going to have degrees, minutes, and seconds. The distance or the length of that line is going to be expressed in feet, usually to 2 or more decimal places. Okay. So for example, we have, thence run north 52 degrees, 72 minutes, 21 seconds west, a distance of 34.23 feet to an iron pin. So again, when reading this out loud or in surveyor terminology, you would say, thence run north 52 degrees, 72 minutes, 21 seconds west, a distance of 34.23 feet to an iron pin. The thence run indicates continuing from the previous point. Now, the north 52 degrees, 72 minutes, 21 seconds west describes the direction. So starting from north, turn 52 degrees, 72 minutes, and 21 seconds towards the west. Now, note that the 72 minutes is unusual because 60 minutes equals 1 degree, but this is a direct example that was from, our book. A distance of 34.23 feet. This is the length of that specific boundary segment. And then we have to an iron pin, and this describes the monument at the end of that segment, which helps the future surveyors retrace the boundary. Again, other monuments could be used, like a tree, a stone, a concrete monument, whatever. Now let's look at a full sample long legal description, and it's going to be broken into parts as it might appear in a deed. Okay, so part 1 of this sample long legal description would look like: all that tract or parcel of land lying and being in land lot 107, 17th District, Fulton County, Georgia, being more particularly described as follows: commence at the point of intersection of the northerly right-of-way line of 14th Street, variable right-of-way width, and the westerly right-of-way line of Fowler Street, 40 feet right-of-way width. Thence run northerly along and coincident with the westerly right-of-way line of Fowler Street, a distance of 269 feet to an iron pin set, said pin being the true point of beginning. Now here we see the general location, which is Fulton County, Land Lot 107, 17th District. Then the description details how to commence, and it's from a well-known intersection, which is going to be 14th Street and Fowler Street. And then is to arrive at the specific true point of beginning, which is an iron pin on the right-of-way line of Fowler Street. Now, this is a two-step process: commencement to the point of beginning, and then point of beginning for the boundary trace. And it's common in complex, meets and bounds descriptions. Now, part 2 of the sample long legal description continues from the true point of beginning and traces the property boundaries. That would be from the true point of beginning as thus established, thence leave the westerly right-of-way line of Fowler Street and run north 89 degrees, 37 minutes, 13 seconds west, a distance of 120.47 feet to a 1-inch solid pipe found. Thence run north 1 degree, 21 minutes, 38 seconds west, a distance of 49.36 feet to a 1/2-inch rebar found. Thence run north 89 degrees, 59 minutes, 38 seconds east, a distance of 121.84 feet to a 1/2-inch rebar found on the westerly right-of-way line of Fowler Street. Thence run along and coincident with the westerly right-of-way of Fowler Street south 0 degrees, 13 minutes, 49 seconds west, a distance of 50.16 feet to an iron pin set, and said pin being the true point of beginning. Okay. Then it says the said property is also known as 1200 Fowler Street, Atlanta, Georgia, per the current system of numbering houses in Fulton County, Georgia. Said legal description having been prepared according to the survey of the .138 acre property by surveyor specialist dated November 25th, 1999. Now let's break down these calls, okay? Because the first call goes north 89 degrees, 37 minutes, 13 seconds west for 120.47 feet to a 1-inch solid pipe. That is one side of the property. The second then runs north 1 degree, 21 minutes, 38 seconds west for 49.36 feet to a 1/2-inch rebar, and that's the second side. The third call runs north 89 degrees, 59 minutes, 38 seconds east for 121.84 feet to a 1/2-inch rebar found on the westerly right-of-way line of Fowler Street. And this is the third side, bringing it back to the street. And the final call runs south 0 degrees, 13 minutes, 49 seconds west for 50.16 feet along and coincident with the westerly right-of-way line of Fowler Street, ending at the original pin that was the true point of beginning. So this confirms the closure of the boundary. And notice how precise the directions, which is the degrees, the minutes, the seconds, and the distances, like the hundredths of a foot, are. And this level of detail is absolutely essential for an accurate meets and bounds description. The example then includes the street address also for common reference, and importantly, it references the survey that was used to prepare it, including the surveyor's name, the date, and the acreage of the property, which is the 0.138 acres. And this illustrates the standard format and the precision that's required when creating one of these. Now, the Public Land Survey System is based upon the U.S. Public Land Survey System and Government rectangular surveys. And as I said earlier, it is not used in Georgia, but it is prevalent in many other parts of the United States, particularly those that were a part of the Louisiana Purchase or later Western expansions. And this system divides land into a series of rectangles by using intersecting hypothetical lines, okay? And these lines form a grid system across vast tracts of land. And the system further divides the areas into sections, townships, and even ranges. Now, the principal meridians and baselines, they form the initial reference points. Townships are 6 mile by 6 mile squares, and they're created by township lines that are running east and west, and then range lines that are running north and south, okay? So each township is then further divided into 36 sections, with each being 1 mile by 1 mile square. So it contains 640 acres. And then sections can then be subdivided into halves or quarters, like the northeast quarter, the southwest quarter, whatever. So like the southeast quarter of the northeast quarter of section 32, township 1 north, range 65 west of the 7th principal meridian. This is an example of it. Now let's just talk deeds in general for a second. We're going to go into way more detail in the next one, but deeds accomplish the transfer of title to real estate, and they are the legal instruments that convey the ownership from one party to another. And a fundamental requirement for a valid deed is that it must contain the property's legal description, okay? And the legal description can either be written directly on the face of the deed, or it can be attached as an exhibit, and it will be incorporated by reference. But without a precise legal description, the deed would be void for vagueness because it would fail to identify the property that's being conveyed. So in a deed, the grantor is the party who transfers the ownership. This is typically the seller. And then the grantee is the party who is being vested with ownership, and that is typically the buyer. A party's vesting deed is the deed by which the party takes title to real property. So every owner of a parcel has their own vesting deed through which they took that title to the land. And that means that if you own a house, the deed that conveyed the property to you is your vesting deed, okay? This is the document that proves your ownership interest. So when you sell the property, you will be the grantor in the new deed to your buyer. And Georgia recognizes several different types of deeds to accomplish property owner transfer. You have the warranty deeds, the quitclaim deeds, and the limited warranty deeds. And each offer different levels of protection to guarantee, or to the grantee rather, guaranteeing the lack of title defects, or maybe saying that, well, there might be some, but we're not taking responsibility if there are. But we're going to discuss those more in the deed requirements, components, and the proper formatting in the next part of this chapter. And that'll be in a whole separate lecture. And that's it. Let me know if you have any questions. Bye.